What are the important takeaways when it comes to fat, the different types of fat in our diet, and how that affects our long-term health?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I'm fairly agnostic about the total amount of fat in the diet. Again, invoking the blue zones, the Okinawan diet is extremely low in fat, well below 25% of calories, potentially down as low as 15 or 10% of calories from fat. But Ikaria, Greece, and Sardinia, Italy, it's up around 45%, well above the typical America diet. So we've got high, we've got low, who cares? Which is why that message, eat real food, mostly plants, is so important. If you get the distribution of foods right, all the rest is just noise. There is no specific macronutrient threshold that's exactly right. So I think we can all be fairly agnostic about the total quantity of fat in the diet as long as we get the quality of foods right. Always focus on the quality of foods. Now, the one caveat there is fat is highly energy dense. So if you take a gram of carbohydrate, it's about 4 kilocalories. If you take a gram of protein, it's 3 to 4 kilocalories. And if you take a gram of fat, it's 9 kilocalories. So more than twice as energy dense as the other two macronutrients, which means at the same volume of food, if you are consuming a high intake of fat, it's easier to overconsume calories. And that's a potential concern. And there have been studies over time that suggest that has implications for weight management. So we could think about that. And that might be an argument for eating lower fat. But frankly, if you mostly eat plant foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds, only very few of those are naturally high in fat. Nuts and seeds are. For the most part, the other foods are not. So your diet won't tend to be very high in fat anyway. So I'm agnostic on total fat. Then the issue is, what is the distribution of fat that's optimal? And it's quite clear that we thrive when the bulk of the fat in our diet is unsaturated, in particular polyunsaturated, and perhaps to a slightly lesser extent, monounsaturated. So there are three main categories of fats: polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and saturated. What does that even all refer to? Well, fats are made up of strings of carbon atoms lined up next to one another. And a saturated carbon theoretically has 4 arms. And if each of the 4 arms is holding something, that carbon is saturated. If some of those arms are not holding anything, then they hold their neighbor, and you have a double bond between 2 neighboring carbons, right? So there's available hand, and they just hold hands. When carbons are holding more than one hand with their neighbor, they're unsaturated. So those double bonds represent the places where a fat molecule is unsaturated. And you've got polyunsaturated, which means multiple places where neighboring carbons are holding 2 hands, and monounsaturated, where there's just one pair of neighboring carbons holding 2 hands. And then saturated fat, everybody's arms are full. And these have very different biochemical properties. They have different culinary properties. And what really matters, again, is balance, adaptation. So, in the native Homo sapien diet, there wasn't a lot of saturated fat to be had, because the flesh of wild animals is quite low in saturated fat. It tends to be high in unsaturated fat. The nuts and seeds that our ancestors ate were high in unsaturated fat. So we're just not adapted to a very high intake of saturated fat, and it's associated with inflammation, atherosclerosis, chronic disease. We very readily get too much of it. So the exact distribution of polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, saturated is probably beyond the scope of this discussion, but suffice to say, more unsaturated fat tends to improve modern health outcomes. More saturated fat tends to exacerbate already bad health outcomes. What's the evidence? Well, all sorts of evidence, the usual things: mechanistic studies, randomized controlled trials, meta-analyses, studies of lipid panels, studies of inflammatory markers. But the example that I particularly like in this instance, Simon, is the North Karelia Project. So in North Karelia, Finland, which had the highest rates of premature death from coronary artery disease of any population in the world in the middle of the 20th century. Men were routinely dying in their 40s of advanced coronary disease. They launched the North Karelia Project following on the learnings from the 7-country study and the work of Ansel Keys. And Keys was directly involved in counseling Pekka Puska, the Finn who initially led this project. And then over a span of decades, they did all sorts of things to try and improve health. And one particular focus was trying to get saturated fat from animal sources out of the diet and replace it expressly with unsaturated vegetable oil and, as fate would have it, particularly canola oil. All right, so a seed oil, which Baha has vilified, although they didn't expressly do that in the dietary guidelines. And the result over a span of decades was an 82% reduction in the rate of prevalent coronary disease and cardiovascular mortality. Stunning. And again, it's not because unsaturated fat is good and saturated fat is evil. It's because eating in accord with our native physiologic adaptations and requirements is good. Balance is good, imbalance is bad. We could go further and talk about essential fats. So there are essential fatty acids. There are two varieties of those, omega-3 and omega-6. Why are they essential? Because we need them for specific biochemical pathways. They are critical rate-limiting construction materials for stuff the body has to make, and the body can't make them. And the two key essential fatty acids are alpha-linolenic acid, often called ALA, that's an omega-3, and linoleic acid, that's an omega-6. We need both. They're a bit of a yin and a yang. They actually, omega-3 and omega-6 are used in many of the same biochemical pathways. They're often involved many important roles, and we can't get into all of that, obviously, but they're often involved in the production of a broad class of chemical compounds called eicosanoids, a subclass of which is prostaglandins. That may be a term most people have heard, and many of our hormones are prostaglandins. And as fate would have it, omega-3s tend to produce anti-inflammatory compounds in the prostaglandin class, and omega-6s tend to produce pro-inflammatory compounds in the prostaglandin class. And so getting a balance right among the different subclasses of unsaturated fat is probably also important. But that's a bit of a nuance most people tend not to think about. But the simple takeaway here, Simon, is we overconsume saturated fat. We probably overconsume omega-6 fat. We underconsume polyunsaturates in general, and public health outcomes improve when going from the current levels of saturated fat to less saturated fat, more unsaturated fat. And monounsaturated fat, which is sort of the case apart from the other two, well, we know that tends to be a good thing too, because monounsaturated fat predominates in olive oil. So extra virgin olive oil and everything we've heard about the wonders of that and the good of the Mediterranean diet, the predominant fatty acid in olive oil is oleic acid. That's a monounsaturated. Again, just by way of reminder, that means that those carbon neighbors, only one pair of them doesn't have a full set of hands, and they're hanging on to one another. So one unsaturated carbon-carbon bond, that's a monounsaturated fat. Oleic acid is of that variety, and it has somewhat differential effects than the polyunsaturates, but clearly beneficial. So where should we be getting our fat? That's really the question, right? At the end of the day, it's about food. And honestly, who cares? Nobody eats unsaturated fat, right? I mean, we use certain oils, but seeds, nuts, olives, avocado, all rich sources of unsaturated fats. Meat and dairy, highly concentrated sources of saturated fats. Fish and seafood, when they're fatty, concentrated sources of unsaturated fat. So if you want to eat animal foods, is fish and seafood better generally than terrestrial animals? Absolutely yes. And we could talk about the specifics of fish oil and so forth. But nuts, seeds, olives, avocados, the oils they produce, fish and seafood, unsaturated fat, consistently and strongly associated with better health outcomes.
And back to your point earlier, when you look at those diets around the world of people that are living long, healthy lives, the way that they eat, that naturally takes care of itself. They're naturally eating a diet that's lower in saturated fat and tends to have more mono and polyunsaturated fats to varying degrees, like you said, in terms of what the total overall fat content of the diet looks like. But generally speaking, they're ticking those boxes of having lower saturated fat and more of these unsaturated fats.
It's interesting, Simon, because we do want to keep bringing the conversation back to simple, actionable understanding. And that's easily achieved. Eat food, mostly plants. It really, really is. And in a balanced assembly. So wholesome foods, real foods, mostly plants, in a balanced, sensible assembly. and then the nutrients all take care of themselves. So sure, as an expert, as somebody who's devoted decades to the study of this and writing books about it, we can get into the details. And by the way, not all saturated fat is created equal. There's palmitic and myristic acid, which predominate in beef and dairy. There is stearic acid, which is present in beef but predominates in, for instance, dark chocolate. There is lauric acid, which predominates in coconut, and we could parse all of that. And it's interesting and not irrelevant. And once you're at that level of detail, it's good to understand all those different things too. But for the average person who just cares about what should I eat for better health, all that's unimportant. That's just noise. I mean, really simply, if you mostly eat a variety of wholesome, minimally processed plant foods and less of everything else, you will, without trying, shift your intake of total dietary fat in a salutary direction. Your health will be the better for it.
When I was a teenager, my dad had a heart attack. He was in his late 40s and I was the only person with him. Looking back, I think he just assumed that he was too young for something like that to happen. He rarely saw a doctor and he had no idea where his risk factors were at. That experience fundamentally shaped how I think about health today. And it's exactly why when I interview experts like Dr. Thomas Dayspring, Dr. Robert Eckel, and Dr. Lawrence Sperling, I pay very close attention when they all say the same thing. The most important cutting-edge cardiovascular risk factors, markers like ApoB and Lp(a), are almost never included in standard blood panels. That's why I use Function. I get over 100 lab tests each year, plus follow-up testing halfway through to track my progress. Function gives me the data that my dad never had, the markers that genuinely matter for cardiovascular health. You can't manage your heart health if you don't know your numbers. Standard tests check the basics, but they often skip over the markers that tell you whether or not you need to take action through lifestyle changes and/or medication. Own your health for $365 a year. That's $1 a day. Visit functionhealth.com/Simon Hill and use gift code Simon25 for a $25 credit towards your membership.